Sinkevicius, for attending our debate and for your intervention. Segue-se agora na ordem de inscrições, Svenja Han, por minuto.
The next speaker is Mrs. Han, 1 minute.
Wie soll die Zukunft der europäischen Wirtschaft aussehen?
What should the future of the European economy look like? Innovation through growth through innovation. We see that we must decouple from consuming more and more primary raw materials. There are 3 points we must bear in mind. Recycling and reusing must become simpler and easier for consumers. Sustainable, innovative models must be sponsored, looking at their carbon footprint and job prospects. The circular economy must be built into trade agreements, therefore. It's about ensuring that a clean environment and competitiveness are undertaken together with our partners. It must be easier for our children. I had that wish, so did my brother, and people have wanted that for generations of children, and that will apply just as much for tomorrow. Intact ecological foundations of tomorrow mean that we have to be smart with the economy now. The circular economy must therefore be part of our future. Thank you for a good report, Jan.
Muito obrigado. Vamos agora para Zagreb.
Thank you, and I now give the floor to Zagreb, to Mrs. Jakovic.
Thank you, Chair. The world is facing an unprecedented resource crisis due to the growth of population and an economic model which we consume resources at double the speed that the planet creates them. But the COVID-19 pandemic offers us an opportunity to start anew. We have to move away from traditional economic paradigms based on constant growth and turn towards a model that creates values for all. The circular economy transition will be radical. It has to be fair and include everyone, and at all levels of government we have to achieve cooperation in that respect. To support this transformation, we have to involve citizens in decision making, whereas circularity must be inbuilt in all phases of production. I'm convinced that circular economy must be a basic element for our national and European politics, and the national recovery plans and European recovery plans must be based on a smart and inclusive recovery. Thank you.
Muito obrigado. A próxima intervenção é de Dublin.
Thank you. From Dublin, Mr. Guffer. 1 minute.
And that's why we're here today, to make laws that help the planet heal. It won't be easy. It's 50 years since the singer Marvin Gaye asked, "Where did all the blue skies go?" And the question is more relevant today. We need a new relationship with our Earth, and we must all play our part in realising the circular economy. On the Transport and Tourism Committee, we know the days of the internal combustion engine are numbered. We need to go electric, but 1 million electric cars won't save the planet. We need to slow down, hear the birdsong and smell the flowers. We need to walk and cycle more and invest in public transport, modern trams and buses, shared and active mobility. The Eco-Design Directive must help us to achieve this. As aviation picks up again, let's have fairer fares that encourage rail travel. And where we need to do this is in this year of rail. And we need to adopt Europe's eco-label and eco-management and audit scheme to tackle waste. The planet deserves this.
Muito obrigado. Próxima intervenção.
Thank you very much. And now the next speaker is Claude Nkrifa. 1 minute.
Merci, Président.
Yes, thank you, President. Commissioner, dear colleagues, we're thinking of the circular economy. If you don't think it's fair, then just take a look at the accumulation of material wealth. This has very much impacted on the way we consume and the way that we are continually drawing on natural resources. It is absolutely essential, therefore, that what we do now is make the agricultural sector far more aware of all of this, and by trying to reduce their debt to nature to a strict minimum. We are in favour, the Commission is in favour of the circular economy and opening the doors to an alternative kind of agriculture, different to the one that uses a lot of resources. But we have to take a look at relocation of production, doing something better with waste, fighting food waste, and we have to be far more transparent vis-à-vis the consumers, especially in terms of labelling. And these are just some of the aspects which will help agriculture move into the era of the circular economy.
Muito obrigado. A próxima intervenção é de Estocolmo.
Thank you. And the next speaker from Stockholm is Mrs. Kokalari. 1 minute, please.
Tack så mycket, herr.
Thank you very much, President. If Europe is going to achieve its climate objectives, we get away from the use and throw away economy to an area where we reuse things. The circular economy is on the way. There are innovative companies in Sweden and the rest of Europe who are promoting some smart solutions. It's a matter of recycling and reusing. Politics have to make it much easier to carry out this shift as soon as possible. But unfortunately, instead of looking at the climate, we're increasingly making it difficult for companies to do things. In Sweden, we have plastic bag ban, and we're now saying in the European Parliament we're making it obligatory for people to store things and nobody knows how to use it. At the same time, we're stopping things like carbon capture and storage and nuclear energy. And we're actually importing electricity from coal-fired power plants in Poland. The EU Commission must stop the Swedish government's new tax on clothes, because we can't afford greenwashing. We need a circular economy which makes it easier to shift.
Muito obrigado. Vou agora dar a palavra à nossa colega Simona Bonafé.
And now I give the floor to our colleague Simona Bonafé for 2 minutes. Thank you, President. Reuse, recycling and regeneration and repair and refill. These are the actions which best explain the new action plan on the circular economy. These actions become ever more central in this historic period when we are tackling an unprecedented health pandemic which faces us with the need to get our economy back on its feet after the commitment of the EU to become a zero consumption planet by 2050. Now, we cannot achieve the climate goals without a deep-seated change of our development model and our planning, production and linear consumption model to become fully circular, respecting the limits of our planets. That's why it's important that the European Commission updated its Circular Economy Action Plan, defining actions and measures to put in place over the next 5 years. In the last action plan, we focused on the lifespan of products, identifying ambitious recycling targets to avoid landfill, and now the Commission must be careful to ensure its implementation in the Member States. In the future, we must try and act on the first level of the waste hierarchy, prevention. Sustainable production must become fundamental in extending sustainability measures, including the design of products, taking into account sustainability, repairability, and a minimum contact specified for recycled materials in the product. These sectors have the greatest potential in the circular economy: the textile sector, construction, ICT and battery production. With Next Generation EU, we have an opportunity now to transform this into concrete investment in the Green Deal. At the same time, we can support a lasting, solid economic recovery, not least because it's environmentally and socially sustainable.
Muito obrigado. Segue-se agora na lista de intervenções.
Thank you. Now let's continue with the list. Martin Hojsik. 1 minute.
Ďakujem, pán predsedajúci.
Thank you, Chairperson, Commissioner. In Slovakia, we say that fire is a good servant but a bad master. The same applies to plastics. It's almost impossible to imagine our life without plastics. Even this mic is plastic covered. Plastics is literally everywhere. We've polluted nature and ourselves. It's so widespread that you may be ingesting the equivalent of eating a credit card a week. Plastics have become a bad master, but plastic waste is not the only problem. Harmful toxic chemicals continue to be included in plastics. We produce more and more of them, and they are produced from fossil fuels, crude oil and gas. Doing so, we are making the climate crisis worse instead of helping redress it. Therefore, what we need is not only action plans. I'm asking the Commission to present specific legislative proposals ensuring reduced use of plastics recycling and manufacturing of toxic-free plastics made from renewable resources. Said in other words, let's go circular. Unless we do so, instead of plastics being our servants, we will become theirs. Thank you.
Ďakujem. And next speaker on behalf of Identity and Democracy Group, Madame Melan, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, merci.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I don't know whether you can hear me. You can hear me, good. Yes, thank you very much. By definition, the respect that we should have for nature is the one that we have for our vital space. We shouldn't waste anything that is given to us. So the name of the circular economy fits into this. So it's very sensible, and we can admit, and we have seen that 75% of greenhouse gases and a large proportion of loss of biodiversity result from exploiting and extracting natural resources from our planet. But if we take a look at the report, there's a good aspect, that we recycle products, our plant, mineral resources, and obviously this is to the benefit and to respect animals as well. And obviously all of us have to try and revert the attitudes of the past 50 years. So in the medium term, it's a very good opportunity to change the overall models of our companies to become more local. But there is another slightly more worrying aspect. If we take a look at the Green Deal and the Paris Agreement, these are borne forward by militant environmentalism. And obviously in the hands of the world powers, the European Union is dictating standards, taking all industrial autonomy away from the member states. And this is what we... a recycled product is far cheaper. And we've seen that there are those workers with very low wages that obviously they would go for these cheaper products, which is a danger. So our future depends on this report, and obviously if we can get it through, we'll all benefit from it.
Speaker on behalf of the group of the Greens European Free Alliance, Mrs. Auken, please.
Yeah, tak, fru præsident. Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank Jan Huitema and the others for an excellent report. You focused on binding reduction targets. Europe's overconsumption is considerable. We need to reduce our consumption by 2/3 because we're consuming it. So we have 3 planets. It's also important to say that the circular economy has to be poison-free and it's got to be sustainable. In January, the Environmental Agency concluded that increased efficiency and new technologies are not enough to make our economy sustainable. The Environmental Agency also says it's probably not possible to have sustainable growth, as we call it. In other words, we've got to get away from our dependence on ongoing growth. We need to be able to make do with well-being within the limits of the planet. The economic growth is very much linked to the pollution crisis and the climate crisis. We can't ignore that, but we shouldn't be caught in unemployment, and society must not grind to a halt. We need to research, and we need real examples of how the economy and our societies can prosper in a circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker on behalf of the European Conservatives and Reformists Group, Mr. Fiocchi, please.
Signora Presidente, Commissario Sienkiewicz.
Madam President, Commissioner Sienkiewicz, thank you for joining us. It's a very good plan, and it's based on some very good concepts. I've spoken with some experts analysing what has been done, and they pointed to the name, the circular economy, when they say, in fact, it's a spiral economy, because some materials, aluminium, lead, rare earths and so on, can be infinitely recycled, but others like paper and plastics cannot be, and they end up in incinerators or landfill. Now, there are a couple of problems I see. Firstly, the waste package from 2018 has been almost ignored by some member states and not properly fulfilled by others. So how do we ensure that we achieve the goal of 2018 and push it further forwards? And then we need a proper measurement system for the system. If we're going to come up with new objectives to 2030, how do we do that if we don't know where we are now? But I give you full support, Commissioner Sienkiewicz, in your actions. Thank you.
Grazie. Next speaker on behalf of the Left Group in the European Parliament, Mr. Wallace, please.
Thanks, President, Commissioner. First of all, well done to the rapporteur, Jan, for all his good work on this report. It's good that the report calls on the Commission to propose targets to significantly reduce the EU's material and consumption footprints by 2030 and bring them within planetary boundaries by 2050. Emphasising an absolute reduction in resource use is really positive. There are positive statements on textiles and fast fashion, on the right to repair, on the need for legislative measures to have food waste by 2030, and legislative measures to tackle planned obsolescence. However, both the Commission's plan and the report still fixate on GDP growth and consumer empowerment. GDP growth is dependent on perpetual, endless resource extraction. Under capitalism, progress is defined as an increase in the total quantity of commodities that we produce and consume each year. The aim of economies should be to satisfy the basic needs and well-being of all people within planetary boundaries, regardless if the economy grows or not. Jason Hickel's book, his new book, Less is More, should be thrown across the classroom desks right across Europe. Thank you.